Welcome back to our continuing series of Fishing Without Bait, where we continue our conversation with the delightful Rubina. Well, I have tattooed across my chest, "Who am I to judge?" And that's what we try to get across to people. We want to become observers, okay? Observe, describe, participate. There's a saying in the 12-step world, Rubina, that you can't read the label when you're inside the bottle. And that goes for relationships, it goes for anxiety, depression, a lot of things in life. So what you do through the breath, you slow things down. And when we slow down, time slows down. And we're able to step back and look at the label, look at things rather than from them. How do you get that across to the folks you work with?
Yeah, so I do a lot of, mindful looking actually when with art. Um, I always find it fascinating. People can go to museums time and time again. Maybe there's a new exhibit here and there, but that same artwork that's, hundreds of years old is there, and you go and look at it. There's some magic. There's some honoring. It gives you an opportunity to go deeper in yourself, is what I feel, what I believe is that having that moment it is a mindful experience where you're just looking at an artwork that's hanging on the wall. It doesn't have to be magnificent, and everyone, has different taste. It's not about judging it that way. It's just understanding. Sometimes you can see the effort that the person put. Every brush stroke may be present or whatever it might be or not. Um, that observing gives such a joy, right? We create, and I think we all are creative people. I don't leave it just to artists. Um, some of us are creative in how we make our coffee in the morning. We like to make something that is, has a certain essence or a certain experience
I like
for
that.
ourselves, right? Or for somebody else, or how we hang our clothes, perhaps, or whatever it might be. Little things we do throughout the day. We use creativity for problem solving. My mind thinks of this, and this is a good solution, and therefore maybe a boss likes that person's mind. So we all are creative, and that gives us this experience, that's not just about we were saying, right? Just being productive or letting our mind be in judgment. It's something outside of that. And so observing is very easy when you're in a place that's like a museum. It's beautiful space, nice big bright walls and nice light. Feel good there, right? And there's all this beautiful artwork, and so that's an easy place to go and observe. And then slowly take that practice. Everything takes practice. Day by day, you start to look at other things and try to find beauty. Walking on the street, just in your neighborhood, a tree, a plant, something, right? You find beauty as you slow down those expectations, those judgments. You can place yourself in a way of observing. And then eventually, in the discomfort, that's available to you because you've practiced it, right?
Well, no one gains wisdom by reading a book or watching a CD or those type of things. You gain wisdom by experience. That's what we have, and that we learn more from failure than we do from success.
Yeah. Isn't that interesting?
It most definitely is. I mean, if a baseball team won every game, you'd go for a while, but then eventually you'd quit going because you absolutely lose interest in it.
Yeah. I used this similar example of telling your own story. So you're the narrator of your own life story, whatever it might be. And, what kind of books do we like to read? We want some kind of plot, some kind of antagonist there, a challenge. If somebody just like, oh, here's my story. I was Rubina. I'm born in this place and had a great life. And here I am. Ta-da. You just, what a bore. Where's the grit that made you who you are, right? Coming through those
Well, sure,
challenges.
it's your experiences that made you who you are. If you never had a bad meal, Rabina, how would you know what a good one was?
Yeah. I've had a lot of experiences that have made me who I am.
Absolutely,
I've had
yes.
my share of challenges.
Okay, so what got you to put the action and effort together to put this? You have a beautiful website. You have a many things. So what got you to put all this together into a sellable, a usable thing?
It really is my passion, but definitely it's because of my own struggle, maybe my own dissatisfaction with seeing what education looks like for most people, and also, noticing people losing themselves, not being able to find who they are, finding their true identity, being able to express that dissatisfaction that I, have faced in my own challenges in life made me feel like we're all looking for this. We're all looking for something to help alleviate the struggles, the pain, right? And I found that for myself, and it's a service for me to bring others on that path for them to find themselves. It doesn't mean that they'll find it the way I found it, right?
Well,
It'll be their own way.
it sounds like that is your purpose. And in the 12-step world, we talk about singleness of purpose. So what would your singleness of purpose be in this world, Rubina?
For everybody to realize that they are a creative person. They've come here, they've been creative, and to have access to that, whatever that looks like in this mindful way,
Okay.
in a conscious way where they can choose, this is who I want to be, designing their own life, designing their
I
own.
like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what we talk about is that a comfort zone is a misnomer.
Yeah.
Nothing ever grows in a comfort zone. Okay. So I consider people to be a balloon with an infinite capacity for expansion. And if they sit inside of that comfort zone, and usually those barriers, those boundaries are depression, anxiety, fear, those type of things. So what we try to do is frustrate people enough to get outside that box.
Yeah, definitely. That's one of the things that I teach is that we don't feel creative when we are, like you said, depressed, stressed, whatever these outside pressures that come onto us. That's the first thing that goes out. Nobody's sitting like, "Oh, let me make a painting. I'm really depressed." We can barely get ourselves ready in the morning. Maybe we can barely get ourselves to eat a meal or to, organize ourselves to have a shower or all that, even basic functions become difficult. And so it works both ways. I feel like creativity can be an entry point to come back and relieve the stress. And also, it's the first thing that goes by the wayside. So if people are working in a field where they're creative problem solving or creating or designing or whatever it might be, um, it becomes a block. And that's what I found for myself. It was like, oh, this is no longer the joy that it was. This has become such a task or chore. And we find that a lot in our life. We've lost that spark, right? As we say.
Well, we're created for joy, not pleasure. And, Thomas Merton says that if you don't know the difference, you've yet begun to live. So, generally, what I do is I give this analogy. Pleasure is if you like to eat potato chips. Pleasure, when you're eating the potato chips, that's pleasure. But when you stop eating the potato chips, there's no more pleasure. Joy doesn't need sustained like that. Joy is in your heart. Joy's a essence, like you said. Joy's a condition.
Yeah, I like to think of it that way as well. Like pleasure is something that we believe is coming from outside. Actually, it's always coming from inside. So even that potato chip is not really the potato chip that's bringing the pleasance to us. It's whatever the taste buds are doing and sending the signals to our brain. But we're using something from outside to activate it, whereas we could probably just, even our imagination is so powerful, but we could enjoy and send signals to our brain with the use of nothing, right? Or our breath, or the mindful observation, just being like taking a moment of peace for ourselves. Doesn't have to do something to get there. We think of that, right? Like pleasure is, oh, I will. And then when we put pleasure, the expectation of pleasure on something outside, it also has the power of it becoming unpleasant, right? It's too many potato chips. How many potato chips can you eat before you get a bellyache and unpleasant?
Before it does become unpleasant, yes.
Yes.
So how do you advertise yourself? How do you make yourself attractive? The promotion policy in the 12-step world is attraction, not promotion. So how do you make a person? There's always a saying, you can lead a horse to water, you can't make them drink. However, you can make them thirsty. So how do you make people thirsty for what you have to offer, Rabina?
I believe in experiences. Everything is an experience. What I'm offering is not a product. You know, talking about like marketing, I struggle with that often. Like it's an experience. So spending time having, either a one-to-one coaching call, let that person experience what it is. It's really hard to just have this concept of something that's out there that somebody hasn't experienced. So
Well,
that's one of the main things I feel. It's a lot of word of mouth for me. Once somebody has had this access to this entry point, I may not be the person for them either. I don't think that everyone is my client or customer, or that I'm going to fix it all for anyone. But definitely people whose lives I've been able to help them reach themselves. I would say I'm not going to say I touched their lives; they're reaching themselves in my presence or my with my guidance. Then they usually tell someone else, that, "Oh, you really want," and then I still offer that. I just offer the service as an experience. If they want to experience something for themselves, then yeah,
and that's attraction, not promotion.
yeah,
So we say in the 12-step world, if you want what we have and are willing to go to any length to get it, then you're ready to take certain steps. At some of these steps we balked. We thought we could find an easier, softer way, but we could not. With all the earnestness at our command, we beg of you to be fearless and thorough from the very start. Here are the steps we took, which are suggested as a program of recovery. Contrary to popular belief, Rubina, 12-step recovery is not about drugs or alcohol or gambling or the other 100 groups. It's about behavioral change. That's what it's about. It's about having a change in your thoughts and a change in your actions. And I think that's what you're getting across. You can't quantify an experience.
no. And I think that when a person really lives in themselves, they've made change in their life. It, like you said, it becomes automatically attractive. People stop and they look and they're like, "You're doing something. What are you doing? It's fabulous. I want to be part of it." Right? It's kind of what you're saying. It sounds like that. I want to make something in my life. I want to make something of my life. Uh, and that's what's attractive is somebody living their own path authentically. That's what people are drawn into. I do that.
Say more about the authentic self.
Yeah, the authentic self is just there. I mean, I don't even know if I can really speak on it. Everybody has their authentic self. It's like we've gotten used to putting on layers and layers. Like, let's say, for example, in winter, we put on so many layers of clothes to keep ourselves warm. It served a purpose. So when we put on masks, it was serving a purpose, maybe to blend in, to be safe, to whatever it might be as we grow and become part of society in our youth. And then at some point, the summer comes, and then if you just keep walking around in all those winter clothes, it's very uncomfortable.
Well, it most certainly is. We'll be talking next week to catch up and continue our conversation with Rubina, a delightful guest of this program. And a free prescription, fruits, nuts, and vegetables. Unplug your television and take up fishing. And for a truly mindful experience, we suggest that you fish without bait. Be mindful and do a favor for yourself. Do a kindness for yourself. Do a kindness for another. Forgive yourself and forgive another. Till all are free, none are free. Namaste, my friends.
Please check out our website at fishingwithoutbait.com, where you can listen to the show, comment on our discussions, and find out where you can subscribe to our podcast. If you're interested in flying the colors of Fishing Without Bait, click the shop icon on our website. We have clothing, mugs, cell phone cases, and so much more. Show the world that you fish without bait. This show is a member of the Sorgatron Media Podcast Network. Find out more at Sorgatron.